continuing using this palette just because I feel like it's such a multi-purpose palette. It has like everything: eyeshadow, it has bronzer, it has highlighter, which I lost one and I'm so upset. When you start applying eyeshadow, no matter what look you're going for, you must so no matter what look you're going for, you guys, you always have to start with a transitioning color. What is a transitioning color? A transitioning color is something close to your color skin where it's super light, and you are going to apply that right on the crease of your eyelid. If you don't have a crease, create one, okay? Basically the crease is the hollow of your eye socket, if that makes any sense. But you practically can just like tilt back your head and kind of look down so you can see the hollow of your eyelid, and then you want to go ahead and apply that light shade right on there. And you want to use a fluffy brush. This is the one I'm using today, and this is by the brand The Pretty Bar. I really like them. They work just as amazing. The lighter the color, the fluffier the brush you want to use, because this is how we're going to be doing that transitioning shade effect, if that makes any sense, because this is what is going to create that gradient effect that we're looking for. You always have to keep in mind, you want a gradient effect when you're doing an eyeshadow. You want your eyeshadow to blend so beautiful from lightest to darkest. So the lighter the shade, the fluffier the brush you want to use. The darker the shade, the smaller and less fluffier, the more precise brush you want to use. So again, let's start with a fluffy brush because we're going to start with a transitioning color. You want to go in with a very light shade. So I'm going to start with this light shade right here, and this is the number 15 from this palette. And again, I'm just taking a little tiny bit. You always want to start with very small precise applications because that would help to ensure that your eyeshadow blends in nicely. It is easier to blend than taking away eyeshadow, so you always want to start very lightly, using a light hand. Also, another tip is the further apart from the handle, the less pressure you are going to apply when applying the eyeshadow. The more closer you are, the more pressure you are actually applying to the eyeshadow, which means you're going to get a harder looking application. So you always want to go further away from the handle and start applying the eyeshadow right on that crease, creating circular motions or however you feel more comfortable. So again, you want to start with very light colors. So I'm just going in, applying that shade. I'm doing circular motions and bringing it into the crease, to my inner corners. And this eyeshadow is actually a little too dark, I started with, but we're gonna work with it anyways. Under clouds of marijuana, you have to work with a brush practically. The closer you are to the handle, the more pressure you're applying. The further away, when you want to go a little further away when you want to kind of blend in towards the upper crease, which will be up here, and you can kind of see already how that blended in. The closer I go, the little harder application I'm applying, and you will kind of see me doing this, just going back and forth with the brush further away from the handle and then going back again like that, just to kind of give more a precise application. Or when I want further, less pressure, I'm just going to do that, and you kind of see how that already like worked out right there. Again, we're just working on the crease. So once you're done with that, kind of applying your transitioning shade, you want to start going in with darker shades. Of course, you don't want to go in with a super dark shade and just kind of boom, apply it right there, because that's just gonna be a mess, girl. Especially if you're like a beginner, it's not going to help you at all. So once again, you want to go in with darker and darker and darker. You don't want to go in like from light to dark. Not gonna work. It's just gonna be super hard to blend out. So now we're moving on to a more precise, less fluffier brush. So you can see what I'm transitioning for. I started with this pink brush right here, which is a much fluffier brush, and now I'm transitioning to a much smaller but yet fluffy brush, and I'm using this Jessa brush, which is a small taper blending brush. So once again, this is when you want to start adding a little darker, not too many shades darker, but a little like 2 or 3 shades darker than what you have already applied. So I am going in with a much darker shade, of course, and I'm going to try to apply this one right here, which is a very dark shade from this one. But I just want to show you kind of like what it is to work with creating that gradient effect. So once again, I'm just taking a little tiny bit, because once again, you guys have to make sure that a little goes a long way when you're applying dark shadows. So you always have to start with very light-handed. Again, I'm away from the handle because I want a light application, and I'm also applying that right on the crease. So what I highly suggest is to apply the eyeshadow right on the outer and then bring it into the inner corners, because this is going to ensure that you don't apply the whole, just in case you take too much, you don't apply the whole thing all over the eyelid. So just make sure you apply it right on the outer corners and then just bring it into the crease, just to make sure in case you apply a little too much, it doesn't apply on the whole eyelid. So again, I like to do that like a little tiny bit right on the corners. Now I know how much I took, and then I just blend it in towards my inner corners. And as you can see, I'm applying this little by little, and I'm working with it little by little. And the way I like to apply eyeshadow is actually looking down. I kind of tilt my head back a little bit. I have my mirror right here, and then because I can actually see the halo of my natural eye, so I just think it makes it so much easier when you're doing it like that. So again, I'm just applying that right on the inner corners and outer corners and blending it onto my crease. And again, I just do circular motions. And of course, you can go ahead and keep reapplying the shade till you get, but just make sure that while you're doing that, you are blending in the first time you apply, just make sure you blend the whole thing out, and then you can go back and pick up a little bit more color to actually intensify the shade that you are applying. Which is what I'm doing right now. I'm kind of making sure I blend what I already applied, and then I go back after it's blended. I go back and apply a little bit more just to kind of make the color even pop more. And I'm sticking to my crease. I'm not moving it anywhere else. Now, once you're done with that, you want to go back with that first fluffy brush that you started with. Do not apply anything on the brush. Just go ahead and blend where you started the first time on that crease, and you want to blend it outwards, which is how I do it. Again, you want to make sure you're away from the handle to give more of a soft airbrush look. So where we started first, I'm just going back and blending that out. If you don't do this, you're more likely ending up with a very harsh edge right on the crease, which is why you always have to go back with that first brush that you started and just blend that crease out. So now, you guys, I'm transitioning to a much smaller brush, which is this one right here, and I just want to show you the difference from where I started to where I'm going and where I'm at. So again, I'm just going to this smaller shade right here, and again, this brush that I'm using is actually from the Pretty Bar. I like them, they work bomb. And I am going to apply a much darker shade now. So I just want to show you kind of like how that gradient effect work. I'm going to this shade right here, right there. And I'm applying once again a little tiny bit because you want to ensure, the whole trick right here is to kind of just keep blending that crease to make sure you get that gradient effect type thing. So once again, I'm just going in with a little tiny bit. I'm holding my brush very far away from the ends, away from the handle, and applying that right on the crease once again. Now, you don't want to continue applying right on the crease. You want to go lower and lower every time you apply a new shade. So once again, just a little lower than what I normally applied it on. I like to start on the outer just because I feel like this is a safe zone for me, and then bring it into the crease. Once again, you want to make sure you blend what you have already applied before you apply more eyeshadow, because this is going to ensure, and I know I sound like a broken record, but you have to blend. And I just like doing circular motions when I'm applying this, or I'm either dragging it back and forth just like that. And guess what we're doing next? We are going back for that first eyeshadow brush that we started with, that first fluffy pink brush that we started with. And once again, you want to go back to that same crease where you started from the bottom, now we're here, and blend once again. You want to do circular motions outwards, very slightly. Do not put too much pressure on the brush, just slightly, slightly, slightly. And you can always go back and intensify the shade, just applying a little tiny bit. You kind of want to continue doing the same step. If you want to go darker and darker, just make sure when you apply, you blend out what you have already applied before you apply even more, before you add more to the eyes, because most likely it will get fucked up. Like, it will be so much harder to blend. So I'm just adding a little bit more, just a little tiny bit. This is going to be all I do, because it's I want this to be kind of beginner friendly. So once again, every time you apply, you want to go back and blend that whole crease out, girl. And you can kind of see how this has a gradient effect kind of going on from lighted to darkest. And now, as you can see, you guys, we're going with a much smaller brush, and this would be considered a pencil smudge brush. It's more for detail eyes, more darker, when you want something more precise, which is what we're going to be doing now, where I'm going to be applying a much darker shade, and it's this one right here. It's a very dark chocolate shade, and you got to be careful when you're working with very dark shade, because they can easily go everywhere, and it's very hard to blend. So you always want to go with something very small. Once again, you want to start out with fluffier brush. The darker you go, the smaller the brush. So again, I'm just taking a little tiny bit right on the tip of this brush, and I'm going to apply it once again on the crease. So this is my safe zone. Like I always say, apply it right on the outer corner, because you can never do wrong on the outer corners. And then bring it into the crease. And also, you guys, the darker you go, the lower the eyeshadow you want to bring it. You don't want to put it too up in the crease, because it can also end up blending way too dark on the top and make it hard to get that gradient effect. Going back to the brush that I used before, using this tiny one, which is a small precise brush, and we are going to focus this on the creases, because I apply a little too much, as you can see, and I'm just focusing it on the crease, kind of blending that crease out a little bit. That's what I'm telling you guys, once you will start applying way too much dark eyeshadow, it makes it so hard to blend. So I'm just going circular motion. I'm focusing on the crease to blend that out. And then I'm going back with that first fluffy brush that we started from and blending that crease out. And as you can see, you have a gradient, nice blended out eyeshadow. This is just kind of to give you an idea on what to do, you guys. Some tips and some tricks that I have like kind of learned that have helped me to do eyeshadow and to look blended, and to not look harsh or anything like that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and finish the rest of my face, just because this is going to be just mainly for the crease and like eyeshadow. After this, you can actually apply whatever you want. I'm actually going to be doing a liner, and I'm using, let me just go ahead and finish it with you guys. I'm doing a liner. I'm using this one by NYX. So once you guys have that crease done, like that gradient effect, you're ready to do anything to your eyelids. You can apply glitter, you can apply whatever, you can clean it out with concealer and kind of create a cut crease. You can do a wing liner. As you can see, I just went ahead and kind of created a wing. But the main basic step that you need to have like that beautiful gradient effect is just make sure you kind of have patience when applying your shadow, and also blend in that crease really well. After you have a very nice blended eyeshadow, anything that you put on will look so bomb, you guys. But you can kind of see the blend out technique, girl. Once you got that done, you're ready to roll. Like, you're ready to do anything on your eyes. So I just went ahead and applied the lashes, just so you guys can see how lashes also give a little more of dramatic look to the eyes and makes it a little more well put together. But again, this is more the eyeshadow that I wanted to teach you guys how I do it and how to get that gradient effect practically. I hope you guys really learned something from this. I hope I'm teaching you something. I really like doing these videos, and I think I'm going to be doing more. Let me know what you would like to see also. Please, if you enjoy this video, don't forget to subscribe, and also thumbs up and share it, please. It'll help so much. Share wherever you can. So thank you guys, and I'll see you in my next video.